I am hoping that the current setup looks good. All right. Sorry, I have my laptop in front of me and making sure everything looks okay. This is the first time I've ever done anything of this nature. And I'm very nervous that something is going to go wrong. But while I had to spend a little bit more time setting things up than I was initially anticipating, this looks like it's turned out pretty well. Right now, my iPhone is carrying a lot of the work right here. I have a lav mic that's hooked up to it. That is basically how it is that you're able to currently hear me. I also have my Stream Deck on my iPhone as well. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous because, again, totally new experience for me. But yeah, whew, I think after an incredible amount of planning, I think I got this to look real good. So, hello, everybody, and welcome to Pizza Baking Hour with Alexander Kazina. Today, we're going to be baking some pizza. A lot of these stuff is already pre-prepared, so I guess you could say this is almost more like the easy bake oven of pizza baking streams. But hey, I hope that you have a lot of fun watching me make it all the same. I'll give you some pointers on how to make great pizzas yourself, and definitely going through my process and explaining how it is that I bring my beautiful, delightful little pizza creations to life. All right. So, first off, initially when I was planning this live stream, I wanted to make my own pizza sauce to put on the pizza, but it ended up not really working out timeline wise. I just did not have the time to put the pizza sauce together. But the good news is that I have a backup, and it's that on a previous occasion in which I made some pizza sauce, kept some of it frozen in the freezer, and I put some of it in my fridge to let it defrost overnight, and it is right here. So I am going to be heating some of that up inside the microwave and putting that on my pizza. But I know that before we do that, you're probably all wondering, what about the dough? Well, let me tell you, I made some pizza dough, and it has risen quite a bit. So I actually did something unique this time. Normally, when I've made pizzas in the past, I tend to rely on wheat flour, like just like your normal everyday, whole grain wheat flour or white wheat flour. This time around, however, I relied on some of this. So this is a specific kind of wheat flour that is often used in pizza baking. It's called like 00 flour. The whole idea is that it has like a higher protein count than normal wheat flour, which basically makes the pizza a little bit more kind of bouncy and basically a little bit more springier. Without further ado, let's get this pizza out of here. The first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be punching it down to relieve it of all the excess air it has built up inside it. Ooh, I can smell the yeast. It smells real good. And then after that, we're going to be cutting it into 4 pieces. 2 of those pieces are going to go in the freezer, and they're going to be made on future nights. The other 2 pieces are what we're going to be baking tonight. All right. So first off, I'm just going to get 2 towels, and I'm going to get a wooden cutting board like this. And we're going to basically be putting the 2 pizzas that we're going to be using tonight on that. I'm going to put this to the side first, though, because before I do any of that, obviously I want to punch down the dough. And when I do that, I'm also going to want to knead it for about 2 or so minutes. I have an Amazon Alexa Echo over here that I can use to give myself quick little timers when need be.
I don't know that one.
I was not asking you to do anything in that instance. All right. Oh, and of course, one of the reasons why I had some of this wheat out here is because I want to flour my work surface a little bit so as to make sure that the dough doesn't stick to it when I knead it for a bit. Again, you don't need to, put a lot of this flour on your work surface. just need to kind of put enough to give yourself enough of an area to work with. If at any point, by the way, that you detect any issues with my microphone, maybe I'm too quiet or there's some weird interference, if it seems like my cameras are out of focus, please let me know at any time and I'll do my best to kind of figure things out. All right. So I'm punching down the dough. I'm getting it to fall. It's taking a bit of time to fall, which is unusual. I suppose this is a special property of this kind of wheat that I'm not really familiar with. I mean, it's a learning experience, and it will eventually allow me to make bigger and better pizzas in the future. So I'm not complaining. You know, sometimes you're taken by surprise. Again, as stated earlier, I really want to do these pizzas well. So please understand that I might end up eating into a bit of the time that I was planning to spend playing Mario Kart a little bit later. Mario Kart's a great time, but I'd rather really focus on getting this pizza stuff done really, really well. You know, I can probably move the iPhone that's up above here just a little bit further out, just so you can more easily see what I'm working on down here on my work surface. So yeah, you just want to kind of like work it a little bit here so you can get a lot of the air bubbles out. And so your pizza dough will be good to go once we are ready to let it rise a little bit more. So, how does one make the dough? Asks 00. So I made this dough last night. I specifically relied on a recipe from the YouTube channel Tasty. So what I do is basically I fill up a cup of water, basically like think like blood temperatured water, 2 cups of that. You let yeast bloom in that 2 cups of blood temperature water for about 10 minutes until it's gotten like bubbly and frothy. You mix that into a mixture of 7 cups of flour, a couple of teaspoons of salt, and then the recipe on Tasty recommends that you mix in a little bit of extra olive oil to give it taste and also to make it easier to work with, and I do that as well. You kind of mix that up. You knead that for basically 10 minutes. You really like knead the hell out of it. And then from there, you put it in this bowl, which you can see right here. And you kind of leave that basically for an extended period of time so it can rise and so its flavors can really develop. You can leave it for as little as like 1 hour or until it's doubled in size. But I like to leave it overnight when possible. All right. So now I think we've kneaded the dough enough. There's still a lot of flour to go around here on my kitchen counter, but it's going to be okay. All right. With that taken care of, let's cut this guy up. I'm trying to figure, maybe I should use, see, I want to make the cut really clean and I don't want to be hacking away at it forever. I'll just use this knife. All right, so I'm going to cut it into 4 pieces. So half once and then half twice. Because again, the idea is that I'm going to be making 2 pizzas tonight and I'm going to be saving 2 pizzas for a later occasion. All right. I know that like professional pizza people will use different kinds of knives than the ones that I'm using to cut this in half. I mean, you know, I will eventually get that once I feel like my pizza skills are sufficiently evolved. For now, I don't think that there's any damage in using this kind of a knife. All right. So we got 4 pieces. Let's use this one and this one, and this one and this one will go in the freezer. So hold on, let's put these over here. These I'm just gonna knead so that I can make them into like a ball shape. Hey, Gaga Pudding, how's it going? I'm in the middle of making some pizza. Hold on a second. I put some Ziploc bags over here just so I could make an quick and easy transfer. And now we need to kind of press out the bag carefully so that there's as little air as possible. There's always going to be some air, but you want to try to avoid making it too airy. I mean, you better believe that I need to knead. That's too bad. I mentioned earlier in the stream when I was playing Mochi Mochi Boy that my sister had actually bought some frozen strawberry mochi, but unfortunately it seems like she already ate all of it. So unfortunately I'm not going to have any snacks to eat until I complete the pizzas, which is okay by me because the pizzas are that good. But anyways, actually it's probably better that I don't eat anything right now because this is my first time using this lav mic in a real major capacity, and I don't know whether or not like me crunching heavily down on even some mochi, which is really soft, is going to produce a lot of noise. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's some Discord notifications on the laptop in front of me. If you can hear the Discord notifications and you think it's annoying, let me know and I'll try and turn those off. If not, I will proceed as usual. All right. That pizza dough's in the oven. Not in the oven, in the freezer. Again, nervousy. Certain words in my brain get snafu'd and fucked up and go down the wrong neural pathways. And what I should say is not said, and what is not supposed to be said ends up being said. All right. Again, I just want to hopefully try and make these pizza dough balls as crease-free as possible. I gotta say, in all my months of pizza baking, these are some of the nicest looking dough balls I've ever made. I think these are gonna turn out real good. Okay. Let me just, I want to see if I can just move this just a little bit closer. Because I noticed that like usually it tends to be kind of at the edge of the camera whenever I'm working on the counter. And so you can see here, we've got our 2 little dough balls. And so I'm going to be putting these over to the side over here, and I'm going to be covering them with these small little towels for the next 45 minutes or so. And so you've got the next 45 minutes to work on all of our various toppings and furnishings that are going to go on this pizza. All right. Alexa, set a timer for 45 minutes.
45 minutes, starting now.
All right, so we've got a 45-minute timer on our hands. I should also mention that before I officially started this section of the stream, I set the oven to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's heating up nice over there. All right. Just going to use the paper towels over here to, I'm not going to throw away the wheat just yet that's on the counter, but I am going to move it to the side just so that I can work on some other things without kind of constantly getting flour in my hands. And by the way, thank you, Gaga Pudding. I really appreciate it. Okay, what's next? Let's start off by heating up some of the tomato sauce. So for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to get a bowl out of the drawer over here. Going to pour that all in. Some of it is still a little bit sloshy. It feels like kind of like the consistency of a slushy, but that's okay. I'm going to need a spoon to spoon it on the pizza in the end, but I'm also going to use this spoon to get as much of this out of the container as well. All right. I've just put that thing in the sink, and I'm going to put this in the microwave. I'm going to put it on for, let's put it on for 35 minutes, and I can always put it in for longer if that's not long enough. Okay. What's next? Oh, I know what to do. So I know that a lot of you were wondering earlier, what exactly it is that I'm going to be putting on this mystery pizza. Well, let me tell you, I have some pretty interesting toppings prepared, and I'm going to show off two of them to you right now. Mystery topping number one, arugula. This is a leafy green that is quite good when put on pizza, or so I'm told. This is actually my first time ever using arugula on a pizza, in fact. So this is going to be a new experience for me, to say the least. The idea is that you're supposed to put this on after the pizza has already baked. So we're going to be saving this until the end. I wanted to take it out early, though, just so that when I put it on the pizza, it's a little bit room temperature. It's not super cold. Mystery ingredient number two. This is probably going to turn a few eyes. Eggs. Yes, that's right. I'm going to put some eggs on the pizza. This is something I've done before. Basically, what I do is I bake my pizzas for around like 8 to 11 minutes. 3 minutes before the pizzas are done, I crack a couple of these eggs on. I twist a bit of salt on them, put some dried chives on them, and it adds a punch of protein to them that honestly tastes really, really good. I know some people will really, really object to this, but I've found it to be really successful in the past, and I'm going to take advantage of it this time. I'm taking the eggs out now because, much like with the arugula, I want the eggs to kind of lower to room temperature before I put them on the pizza, because that will allow them to kind of cook a little bit faster, and it will result in kind of less of a crazy experience. All right, so I'm putting the eggs over here to the side. Now, I want to show off my final secret ingredient for this stream. If you've been paying attention to me over on Instagram, you'll probably be very familiar with this favorite ingredient of mine, but it is dried tomatoes. So we live in a household where, because of my sister's dietary restrictions, we generally don't eat meat. I will eat meat at like restaurants and whatnot, but when we're eating at home, we generally stick to a vegetarian diet. And for that reason, I, spent a fair bit of time trying to find out what's like a good kind of meat substitute topping for pizzas. And while people don't necessarily think of dried tomatoes as being like a good meat substitute, it really, I think, does a great job of just giving that pizza that extra little pow of flavor, and like really kind of adding a textural kind of component to it that, while not exactly like pepperoni or other kinds of meats, definitely kind of fills in that slot, so to speak. So I'm going to be grabbing a small little plate real quick. This one's going to be for something else. And I'm going to be putting the dried tomatoes on this plate so that we can more easily transfer it to the pizza later on. So I really have gotten into tomato soup myself. Although I've not made tomato soup with sun-dried tomatoes before. I'm definitely going to want to look into that because I've really had a great time with tomato soup in the past. Okay. Earlier we heated up some pizza sauce, so let's see how that's doing. Okay, it's definitely melted a fair bit. Nobody panic. I'm going to stick a finger in it. I've already made a point of washing my hands beforehand. Okay, it's still a little bit cool. I mean, we don't need to heat it up too much, but I'm just going to heat it up a little bit more. I'm going to put it in for 22 minutes. 22 seconds, not 22 minutes. That would have been disastrous if I put it in for 22 minutes. All right. While that is happening, let's talk about some cheese. Tonight, we are going to be working with 3 different kinds of cheeses. We've got some mozzarella cheese. We've got some Havarti cheese that's currently in the Ziploc bag to prevent it from drying out. And we've got some Parmesan cheese. The Parmesan cheese is going to go on in a very indirect fashion. We'll look into that in a bit. The mozzarella cheese and the Havarti cheese are basically going to be mixed together and are going to go directly on the pizza. So, let's open these up. I have a scissor over here that should make this easier, but I don't know where the scissor went. Oh, that's not good. See, I left some like plates and like knives and whatnot out that I was specifically going to use to make the pizza with, but for whatever reason, my parents decided, oh, this pizza cutter, if he has it out on the counter, he must be washing it, and they put it over here to wash it. Yeah, they probably did the same thing with the scissors. Anyways, I'll figure out something without it. I've always found in the past that it's very easy to underestimate the amount of cheese that you're going to use. Oh, and by the way, thank you, Gaga Pudding, for the follow. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I've always found in the past that I tend to underestimate how much cheese I'm supposed to use. So if it seems like I'm like really using a big block of cheese, it's just because I found in the past that you can't skimp on the cheese. So obviously there's a lot of cheese to be grated here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take breaks. I'm gonna grate a little bit of cheese. I'm gonna do another task. I'm gonna grate a little bit of cheese. I'm gonna do another task. I'm flipping over the cheese basically so that I can kind of continue to grate it without it losing its consistency. Not consistency, constitution, because you can see it's sort of like falling apart here, and I don't want it to completely fall apart as I'm grating it. Let's flip it around. I would not be surprised if I actually just end up using like both entire packages of Havarti and mozzarella, to be honest. Okay. Piece of cheese fell on the laptop that's in front of me. By the way, this chef's hat that I'm currently wearing, I got it off of Amazon for like $12. Not a bad buy. I've basically used it for nothing. I knew well in advance I was going to do this cooking stream, but I basically have not used it for anything since the like 3 or so months that I bought it. As you can see, it's now that the cheese is kind of falling apart, it's becoming a little bit harder to grate it. I think I need one of those crank graters. I think that would kind of significantly speed up the process. I also realize that I don't need to be super precise with making sure that each piece of shredded cheese is like a thin little damper feather that will easily melt. I can have some bigger chunks, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it feels good if I can properly shred most of it. Hold on a sec. I think I got a text notification. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Somebody complimented me on my black chef's hat. I really appreciate it. All right. I'm gonna shred this last little piece, and like I said, I'm gonna kind of switch tasks temporarily and work on something else. Alexa, show me the timer.
Here are your timers.
Okay, so we got half an hour until our 2 little pizza boys are ready to be dealt with. All right. Let's take that tomato sauce out of the microwave. Let's see where it's at. Okay, the bowl feels relatively warm. Again, nobody panic. I already washed my hands before this. Yeah, that's fine. It's basically like blood temperature. Much like the water that you have to prepare when you're trying to bloom your yeast when making pizza dough. All right. So that's good. So that's going to be put to the side for here. You know what? This is a good opportunity to make some. I don't know what you really call this. I'm sure that somebody in the chat can supply me with a better word, but basically a kind of glaze for the pizza crust. I realize glaze is not the best word, but basically I found in the past that the taste of my pizza crust all alone tends to be a little bit flat. And so what I like to do is I like to brush it with a mixture of olive oil, Parmesan cheese, and garlic powder, and a little bit of salt. So let's make that right now. It's a very kind of small component of the pizza making process, but I consider it to be very essential. So what we're doing right here is we just have a small little cup. We have the brush that we're going to be using to brush it on. I don't have an exact science in terms of the measurements I use here. I just kind of pour in as much as I think is appropriate. I don't know. I think this is maybe 2.5 tablespoons. I think that's fine. These aren't huge pizzas. It's not like their crusts are gigantic. Oh, no, wrong kind of powder. This is onion powder, which is not what we need. I don't really like the oniony taste on the crust. The garlicky taste is better. Okay, so we're going to want to, be liberal, but not that liberal. I'm going to put this away. Many professional chefs will tell you that it's a good idea as you're working to kind of subtly clean up the kitchen. And I find that piece of advice to be very useful. You don't want to leave your kitchen in complete disarray as you're working in it. Next, I have some Himalayan sea salt. This is something that I've fallen quite in love with over the past little while. I mean, it's tastes like the quality of its salty taste is a very subtle improvement over like normal table salt, but I personally find it to be pretty good. So we're gonna put some of that in there. Again, we don't want to overdo it, but we don't want to underdo it either. And I'm going to put this over here because that's typically where we leave the salt. I do have a shaker of the Himalayan pink sea salt. However, I'm going to be saving that for when I put the eggs on. Okay. And yeah, so we put some garlic powder in there. We put some salt in there. I can, yeah, you know what? I didn't previously mention it, but I can probably put some pepper in there as well. All right, that's about good. I'm going to put the pepper over here. I might sprinkle a little bit on the eggs later. I'll see how I feel. And finally, we got the Parmesan. So for the Parmesan, I'm just going to create its own little separate plate because part of the Parmesan I'm going to put in this mixture that I'm creating right here. However, I'm also going to want to sprinkle some Parmesan cheese on the pizza at the end when I take it out of the oven. Disruptoid in the chat says, I also brush my crust. It's great. When I'm using my grill top oven, I don't bother. Crust gets enough flavor. I'm definitely looking forward to the day where I can get something really specialized to bake my pizza in because my oven does the trick, but obviously there are much better ways for me to really get that good flavor, good rise out of my pizza. Okay. Move over for a second, please. Thank you. So I'm going to be grating our Parmesan over on this here side of the grater. I'm just going to make some very, very small little minuscule pieces of this here Parmesan. I'm just going to, for another like 10 seconds, I don't want to spend too much time, but I don't want to underdo it either. All right. That's about, I think, enough. It's definitely enough for the crust brushing. And I think that it's also going to be enough for when I want to sprinkle some on after. And uni. I'm not actually. I know that like the world of home baked pizza goes pretty vast. I'm actually not familiar with what an uni is. I'm putting this Parmesan back in the fridge. And that's that. Sorry, just checking my phone, making sure that it's going good. All right. Uni is a brand of standalone tabletop pizza ovens. They're incredible. Oh, and you can cook with gas, wood, and coal in them. Really cool stuff. That sounds pretty neat. I think I'm good with my oven for now, but as I get more and more into the pizza baking realm as it is, I think I'm definitely going to look into this kind of stuff. Thank you for letting me know about that. All right. So we're going to want to put some of the Parmesan in the brush mixture. And I'm just going to use the brush to mix it all up. I'm scared to directly taste this, even though I'm sure that it's just like frothy, salty goodness. You know what? Why not? Hmm. You know what? It could use a little bit more salt, to be honest. I'm not going to overdo it, but all right. Let's give that another taste. Okay, that's good. That's really good. Okay. You know what though? Just to be on the safe side though, I'm gonna add a little bit more olive oil to it, just so that I make sure that I have enough for all of the pizzas. All right. Hey, Angkor. Oh yeah, this is like I said earlier, this was a great like $13 spent. All right, let's get back to the cheese grating. Oh, want to make sure that not too much of this stuff falls out. It's time to shred ourselves some Havarti. I suspect that this will probably be enough. Hold on a sec. This is pushing up against the dried tomatoes and the pizza sauce. Hold on a sec. This is slightly breaking up. Let me turn this around. All right. All right. There needs to be like a Kickstarter or like a Patreon that invents some way to hold giant blocks of cheese while you're grating it so that it doesn't break apart. If somebody does that, I will invest in that Kickstarter for the first time in forever. The last Kickstarter that I invested in was the ukulele Kickstarter, actually, which I mean, I'm happy that I kind of, allowed that developer to get its wings, and I'm happy that apparently ukulele and the Impossible Layer came out really, really well. But I don't know that I was like 100% satisfied with that decision. Nothing against Kickstarter. I'm sure that, many people will claim that they really benefited from the platform's existence, but I don't even know like, oh man, Mighty Number 9. Whoa, that's that's not good. Thankfully, I did not have like a gigantic like Mega Man was never a video game franchise that I would say that I had a lot of nostalgia for. So when Mighty Number 9 was announced, it was not something that I leapt on. Okay, I'm arriving at the final like little piece of Havarti, and it's kind of getting a little bit tough to grate. Okay, and with that, we've got our nice plate of grated cheeses. I'm just kind of rubbing along the edges of the cheese grater. Hey, thank you, Mitch George. I appreciate you artificially inflating my view count. I gotta become a Twitch partner sometime, you know? And now I'm just gonna, as best as I can without spilling it too much on the counter, mix it up. The counter is well cleaned, so anything that falls on the counter is fine. It's not bad or anything, but you know, you kind of want to keep your workplace as consistently clean as possible. All right, I'm gonna wipe this stuff up, and I'm gonna re-add it to the plate. You know, I like have very small portions of of mozzarella and Havarti left. I feel like it's almost kind of like I might as well put these remaining pieces on the pizza, but is that a little bit piggish? Hold on a sec. Oh, thank you. Oh, hold on a second. All right, there we go. I need to like be very careful with the phone that I currently have in my pocket because, like I said earlier, that's the phone that I'm using to power the lav mic that I have on myself as well. And also, I have access to my Stream Deck, my miniature Stream Deck in my pocket that will allow me to instantly switch to whatever scene I so prefer. So it's important that I keep that in tip-top shape. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grate this last little piece of Havarti. The rest of the mozzarella, I'm going to put to the side. I am not going to put it back in the fridge just yet because I might decide later on that I need some more, but I'm not going to grate it yet either. All right, it goes over there. All right, let's grate this last little bit of cheese. I hope that my sister likes Havarti. I like Havarti quite a bit. I really like putting slabs of Havarti on sunny side up eggs that I like to cook on the stove, but I don't know how much of it is to her preference. Okay, I'm going to put the cheese grater off to the side. I'm going to take the cheese and put it over to the side as well. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a bit of quick cleanup. There are some things on the counter that don't really need to be there anymore, so I'm going to put them away, like that small little glass container and these chili flakes, which I was going to use to make my homemade tomato sauce, but like I said earlier, there wasn't enough time, so I had to kind of cut a few corners. I have some oregano over here. I am going to sprinkle this on the pizza before I put it in the oven. What else? Oh, I have some measuring spoons over here. Again, I was planning on using these for making the homemade tomato sauce, pizza sauce, but again, we're not doing that. We're just relying on some stuff I have in the freezer, so no need to do so. A knife, again. Oh, actually, this is the knife I used for cheese cutting, so I'm going to put it over here to be washed. All right. So we have our cheese. We have our dried tomatoes. We have some eggs over there, slowly attaining room temperature. We have some arugula, again, slowly attaining a bit of room temperature. Oh, we have 2 measuring cups. And again, these are actually meant for making the tomato sauce, which I plan to skip over. So I'm going to put these away. I realize that, this putting stuff away is not as interesting as, grating the cheese or kneading the dough or doing any of that kind of stuff. But it's important because it's important when you're cooking, which can be a very stressful activity, to have good ease of mind. And a good way to have good ease of mind is for your kitchen to be in as tip-top shape as it can be at any given moment. I have some fine dried chives over here. My idea is to sprinkle some of these on the eggs partway through cooking. So I am going to open these and leave them out, but I'm going to put them by the oven just so that they're easier to get. This is just a water bottle. I'm going to drink a bit. And some sweet ASMR water rock action for you. All right, what's next? I mean, honestly, the only thing I really the major thing I need to worry about right now is just kind of getting my pizza in good tip-top shape once it's ready to go. Alexa, show me the timer.
Here are your timers.
Okay, so I have 12 minutes left. So I got 12 minutes on that. So I actually have a fair bit of time to spare. You know what? I mentioned earlier that I was lacking a scissor. Oh, never mind. Turns out my parents actually put a scissor into one of our knife drawers. It's smaller than the scissor that we normally use, but that's okay. I just needed to be a scissor. The reason why I use a scissor is I have a pizza stone in my oven, which I'm going to be putting the prepared pizzas onto and baking them on. The thing is that I've had some bad experience in the past with regards to flouring my pizza peel and sliding my pizza from the pizza peel into the pizza stone. And so what I like to do is I like to basically cut out some parchment paper and basically kind of like create like a pizza shaped parchment paper piece and then let that bake and kind of solidify for 2 minutes and then take the parchment paper out. A lot of people will say that like you want to have the pizza directly on the pizza stone for as long as possible so that it can really kind of absorb as much of that heat as possible. So I don't leave the parchment paper on the entire time. I just leave it on long enough so that it firms up and so that I can safely get it onto the pizza stone in the oven without it getting misshapen. So and the reason why I needed the scissor is so that I could basically cut the parchment paper into the correct shape that I needed it to be. All right. Spreading out the pizzas, I might as well take some of the flour from earlier and spread it around my tabletop. Let's do that. Just adding a little bit more. Nope. I'm going to want to take some pieces of cheese and put them over here. All right, I'd say that's pretty well spread out, give or take. What's next? I can take this, which I use for the pizza sauce, and I can put it in the wash. Oh, before I forget, this is one of the serving trays that I'm going to be using for the pizza. I wish I had 2 of these, but I only have 1. So I'm going to use this, and I'm just going to use a normal plate. I'm going to put this one over here. And I'm going to get the other normal plate that I'm going to be using for the second pizza out of the drawer right now before I forget. Honestly, that's probably like before I get any of these crazy pizza ovens or anything of that nature, my next major thing to invest in will probably be like a proper pizza serving plate. That makes a lot more sense. You guys have all seen the pizza cutter before. I am shocked by how well this thing is. You look at it and it looks kind of chintzy. It's made out of like plastic, but it cuts through pizzas amazingly well. Pizza cutters are one of those things where, they're very specialized, they're very specific. You can't really use it for a whole lot of things, but I've found a lot of love in this thing. So I'm gonna put this over here. All right. As previously, you also remember seeing my pizza peel. This is something that I got at the beginning of my pizza baking. In fact, I got it before I even tried to bake any pizzas in the oven. I had this idea in mind that I really wanted my first few pizzas to be these really kind of professional affairs, but needless to say, the first few ones did not come out all that well, partially for the reasons I stated earlier, namely that I had a lot of difficulty transferring them from the peel to the pizza stone, um, and or like some cookie sheets that I previously used before I got my pizza stone, and that resulted in them coming out all misshapen. Since I started applying my parchment paper technique, they've tended to come out a lot more easy. So, yeah, it's myself and this piece of technology we've had a fickle relationship, but it's helped me make wonders, and I don't want to sound underappreciative of that. I'm just putting that to the side for now. And of course, I feel like I would be bereft to not mention the oven mitts that I'm going to be using to handle the pizzas. These are actually something that my sister got recently. She tends to use them for a lot of baking projects of hers. I'm just going to put these over to the side by the oven. Oh, I just realized something. So I have this pot over here that has some olive oil at the bottom of it. Basically, I was planning on using this pot to make some more of that tomato sauce that I mentioned earlier, but now we're not going to be using it. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the sink and fill it up with some water. Sorry, pot. I hate to kind of dirty you in that fashion, but unfortunately, these sorts of things happen. You make plans, and those plans get skedaddled. Gave my hands a little bit of a wash. Oh, if anybody has any questions while we're waiting for the pizza doughs to be ready, feel free to shoot them my way, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. We've got about, I think, 5 more minutes before they're going to be ready. I'm undecided on whether or not I want to put all 3 eggs on one pizza, or maybe like 2 eggs on one pizza and 2 eggs on another. What's my favorite pizza? I mean, my favorite pizza is probably like I like a good like meat lovers pizza, I would say. I think that my favorite pizza topping is probably, you know what? I really like obviously, like, I realize meat lovers is kind of a favorite of a lot of people. I really enjoy a good buffalo chicken pizza. I know some people, the idea of buffalo chicken is kind of sacrilege, especially in a pizza scenario, but I think that the melding of flavors is really, really, really good. And I have enjoyed everything from, mediocre quality store-bought buffalo pizzas to, good ass like restaurant buffalo pizzas, even though those tend to be a little bit uncommon. I mean, the thing is, Mitch, so do we want to get briefly into the whole Hawaiian thing? Like, a couple of weeks ago, I actually made some pizzas that had some not pepperoni, some pineapple on them. And basically, what I decided to do with those is I decided to take the pineapple and I decided to kind of sear them in a pan over there with a little bit of brown sugar and a little bit of sea salt to kind of improve their flavor. The thing about pineapple pizza is I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to say that it is a top tier amazing pizza, but I do think that it does get a little bit of a bad rap sometimes. And I think the problem is that more often than not, like I feel like 99% of the Hawaiian pizzas that people tend to eat in the world tend to be Hawaiian pizzas that, come from Domino's, come from these, lackluster pizza chains that don't have very good pizza crust, don't have very good pizza ham quality, don't have like all these other various quality pizza ingredients. And it's one of those things where, like, when you're eating a pepperoni pizza from Domino's, for example, the pepperoni kind of saves the rest of the pizza. But when you put something like um, pineapple on it, which itself is not like a top tier pizza ingredient to begin with, it kind of fails to save the rest of the pizza. And I feel like you're a lot more receptive to its sort of faults as a whole. And to get back to what I was saying earlier about searing it in the pan, problem is that so many of these pizza places don't do anything to properly prepare the pineapple. When you're making a quiche, for example, you don't just put like raw mushrooms in with the egg mixture that you make the quiche with, and then pour it into your crust. You have to cook the mushrooms properly first. So many of these recipes are you don't just put the vegetables in raw. You really have to like cook them and properly flavor them. And I feel like so many kind of pizza makers don't really understand that you got to do the same thing with pineapple. You really have to properly flavor it first before you put it on your pizza. If you just put it on your pizza raw, you're going to get, pineapple on pizza, no frills, nothing exciting, and you kind of head down another endless cycle of people just disparaging it and endless memery on the internet. Yeah, I think Gaga Pudding kind of put it correct, which is that there's the ceiling and the floor on Hawaiian pizza is really, really high and really, really low. Where it can be really, really good. I'm not going to say it's a top tier pizza, but it can be really, really good, or it can be really, really bad. And I think the reason consistently why Hawaiian pizza tends to be really, really bad is because a lot of pizza makers usually tend to skimp on a lot of the other ingredients that go in the pizza, and so the kind of Hawaiian part of it is forced to carry what is already not a really great pizza to begin with, and they also tend to not really do a good job of cooking the pineapple part beforehand. By the way, I just saw your comment about Domino's, Mitch. I mean, look, I think I've had some good pizzas from Domino's in the past. I don't think that all of their pizzas are bad. But like I've got to be honest, in the ranking of like the fast food pizza chains, Domino's is not really close to the top for me personally. I would much rather take Pizza Hut over Domino's. All right. Alexa, show me the timer. Oh, seems like we have a minute
Here
left.
are your timers.
Alexa, turn off the timer.
45-minute timer canceled.
All right. I'm going to carefully take one of these risen pizza things off the thing. Uh, all right. So it's time to stretch this out a little bit. So I know a lot of people have a lot of different techniques. I'm a little bit more of a beginner when it comes to this pizza stuff. So I'm not going to be super adventurous here, but I am going to try and give you as much of a show as possible. So what I like to do first is I like to kind of like use my knuckles to kind of spread it out like that. Then I kind of try and do this sort of rotating shape. This is something I've kind of developed over time, over like the past several months. And I try to kind of like keep the height of the dough across the entirety of it fairly the same. Then I kind of like, I try and like begin really trying to stretch it out like this. Again, trying to keep the height of the dough fairly consistent. I don't want any part of the dough to kind of become unexpectedly and needlessly stretched. I've had instances in the past where the pizza has ended up paper thin in certain spots, and that's really kind of screwed things up. So I try to avoid that. So you can see it's slowly getting bigger. Again, I'm trying not to rush it. I know some people who are like super experienced at this sort of stuff can just stretch it out at like a million light years. And that's not something that is of interest to me. Ugh. I'm just trying to make it a little bit bigger before I switch to the next step. And again, I'm really trying to make sure that I press down on the edges of it to make sure that it's sort of like evenly done. Give me a second here. I just want to access my Stream Deck so that I can switch profile. There we go. And so I'm switching over to this view so that I can switch over to my next step, which is basically using gravity in my knuckles in this fashion to kind of spread it out a little bit. I'm not quite ready yet to kind of do the infamous pizza toss. I think that I will leave that for the time being to the level 100 pizza makers, and I wish them the best, but that's not really a scene for me. Okay. So with that done, I'm gonna just sort of go over the pizza, and I see that there's a few holes here. That's unfortunate that that happened, but I'm gonna try to do my best to kind of cover them up. I'm gonna go over the edges here and just stretch those out because I don't want the crust of my pizza to be kind of too heavy and too dense. I want it to be kind of like about as even of a pizza experience as possible. All right, I think that's about as big as we want to make it. We don't want to make it any larger than it needs to be. All right, so what we're going to be doing here is we are going to be transitioning this pizza over to our peel. Give me a second, just putting my phone back in my pocket. Before we do that, though, we need to put some parchment paper on our peel. Man, this scissor is really not that great. I need to find another pair of scissors for the future. I need to kind of very carefully put this on in about, yeah, there we go. I wanted it to be like in one fell swoop, but it didn't turn out that great. All right. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to cut around the edges of the paper so that we don't have any parts needlessly jutting out. But I am going to leave one part to jut out just so that when the pizza is cooked for about 2 minutes, I can kind of quickly yank the paper out from underneath it. It's like I'm operating on the pizza. Again, if you rely on using, cornmeal or flour on top of your peel, no problem. I'm not here to tell you what to do or what not to do. All right. Let's take some tomato sauce and let's spread it on. So we're putting it over in the center of the pizza. I put 3 spoons. I'll probably put a 4th. And we're kind of spreading it out in a spiral pattern. Yeah, I'm going to want to put a little bit more. I hope that my sister is getting sufficiently hungry, because I definitely am getting hungry. Oh, yeah. I'm going to put 1 more spoon, and then we're going to call it good. We don't want to put too much tomato sauce on this thing. Now, I know this is not like a common pizza making technique, but one thing that I do like to do is I like to actually fold up the sides of the crusts over here just very lightly, just so that we kind of create this, I guess you could say, like a cratered appearance. I previously started doing this because I tried to do like cheese stuffed crust, and I found that to do that properly, you need a lot of cheese. But I found that even without the cheese stuffed crust, I like the kind of visual appearance of moving the dough over the sides like that. Moreover, that it creates a very clear delineation between, where the tomato sauce begins and where the tomato sauce part of the pizza ends. A second, I'm pinching the crust part of the pizza just to make sure that it kind of maintains that shape. If I'd been a little bit cleverer, I actually would have done that before I put the pizza sauce on, because now the pizza sauce is getting a little bit on the crust part, but it's okay. We're going to be all right. All right. Next order of business, we're going to be putting some dried tomatoes on this. We're going to use half of the dried tomatoes. And just kind of carefully measuring it out. All right. Now we're going to want to kind of put the dried tomatoes around the edges of the pizza. We're not going to really want to put it in the center, because a lot of stuff is going to kind of gravity is going to take its course, and a lot of stuff is going to kind of float towards the center, so to speak. And that means that we don't want to put too much pressure over there. They don't look like very good visually right now, but like, trust me when I say that the taste and also the scent here from the Kazina household kitchen is going to be very, very good. All right, so that's good with that. All right, and now it's time to put the cheese on. So I have the cheese bowl over here from earlier. I'm trying to kind of on the fly make two different kind of separate sections of cheese so that I kind of use an equal amount on both pizzas. All right. I'm trying to sprinkle on as evenly as possible. We're definitely going to have a very cheesy pizza tonight. That much is certain. Very cheesy Havarti pizza. All right. Just a little bit more cheese, and then we're going to be done. And this is it, the last scoop of cheese for now. All right. And with that, we have one last thing to do with this pizza before we put it in the oven, and that's to brush the edges of it with our Parmesan, black pepper, salt mixture from earlier. All right. This is going to be a little bit sloppy, but unfortunately, a lot of cooking is that way. It's like actually painting a painting. You want to make sure that your brush isn't absolutely soaked before you apply it to the medium. Okay, that's about 2/3 of the way through. I think the amount of dressing that I made is more than sufficient. A lot of the uh, kind of brushing is falling on the paper underneath it, which is fine because, of course, we're going to remove the paper after like 2 minutes. And lastly, before we put it in the oven, we're just going to sprinkle some of the oregano. Not too much, just enough to kind of like give it a little bit more of an interesting flavor and color profile. And that's about it. All right, we're good. Okay, and with that, our first pizza is going in the oven. Unfortunately, you can't really sort of see the inside. Oh, you actually can. Wow, I did not even plan that out when actually, so on my iPhone that I'm recording this on, you can see the oven a lot more clearly. On the actual stream itself, it's a little bit less clear. Oh, hold on a sec. I'm going to increase the size of my view just so that potentially you can see it a little bit better. Yeah, I'm going to slide this into the pizza stone that's in the oven. Yeah, you still can't really see it, but hey, I might as well enlarge it just for this section. I'm going to use some oven mitts just to kind of slide the pizza stone out. And I am going to very carefully put it on. There we go. We carefully slid it back into place. Alexa, set a timer for 2 minutes.
Starting now.
And again, as stated earlier, we set the timer for 2 minutes because we're just going to cook it for 2 minutes with the parchment paper underneath it, and then we're going to remove the parchment paper after 2 minutes after it's solidified enough so that we can spend as much time cooking the pizza directly on the pizza stone. All right. I don't think that we're going to need any more cheese, so I put the cheese grater over in the sink. What else? You know what? Since we're going to be dealing with the second pizza pretty soon, let's spread the flour that's on the counter back again so that it's a little bit more evenly distributed. I honestly didn't even really need the flour for when I was enlarging the previous pizza, but I figure it might as well kind of get as much out of the dough as possible, as much out of the flour as possible. All right. Whew, I just took the towel off of the other bit of dough and it looks very, very nice. Looking very, very plump. You know what? Again, it's good to have ease of mind when baking. So I'm going to take the package of flour that I was using to flour the workspace before me, and I'm going to just put it away for the time being. It's reached the end of its use for the night. All right, the timer is up, so we're going to remove the parchment paper from the oven. Alexa, turn off the timer. Okay. So as usual, we're going to slightly extend the pizza out of the oven. We're going to take the peel, and basically I'm going to, with one hand, kind of hold the pizza up, and with the other hand, with my oven mitt on, try and remove the piece of parchment paper. And again, push that in slowly. And voila. You know what? Normally I just cut myself a new piece of parchment paper. I don't see why I can't just reuse this. I'm going to put it to the side for now. All right. Alexa, set a timer for 6 minutes.
6 minutes, starting now.
So when those 6 minutes are up, what I've decided is I'm going to take one of the 3 eggs that I was previously alluding to, and I'm going to crack it on that pizza. The other 2 eggs will go on the second pizza. All right. In the meantime, let's work our second pizza into shape. All right. Again, like last time, we're using our knuckles initially to kind of spread this thing out. I realized that if I ever make another pizza cooking stream like this one, I'm probably going to have to like really up the ante on the ingredients. I think these pizzas are going to be especially good, but I think next time I'm going to have to go like way over the moon. I don't even know what that could possibly entail. Say so far I'm really impressed with how well this cooking stream is turning out. You know, there was a lot of anxiety going into this stream for me personally. I wasn't super certain whether or not it was going to work out well, but I did like a kind of brief little rehearsal last night, and it actually was pretty good when I did so. And I was like, oh, maybe this will turn out okay. And there was like a very brief moment of frustration when I was setting the stream up in the intermission following the Radalaika game stuff. But I was actually able to get this all set up without that much of a problem after that brief moment of frustration. All right. Oh, whoops. And now, as usual, we're just going to stretch it out a little bit with our knuckles. Again, we're trying to be careful here that we don't tear the pizza or like make any parts of it that are especially thin. If we do, we'll try our best to cover it up. All right, and I think that's about as big as we want to make this pizza. We don't want to make these any bigger than they're supposed to. We're not making a jumbo-sized family pie. All right. So you can see right here, I'm trying to fix a few parts that seem a little bit on the thin side. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to reuse the parchment paper that I used for the previous pizza, but I'm just going to wipe it down ever so slightly with some paper towels. Just so I can get rid of some of the kind of excess grease that's on it. Let me just check the other pizza. Oh, it's coming along very nice. All right. Again, try and do this in one motion. All right. So with this one, previously I mentioned how I should have kind of folded over the edges of the pizza first. So I'm going to do that first. I hear a lot of movement upstairs, so my sister is definitely active and about. I don't need to wake her up, but I don't know how soon I can expect her to enjoy some of my pizzas. Don't worry, I'm not gonna eat all of them for myself. I'm definitely gonna alert her when they're ready. Well, in about a minute, I'm gonna be putting my first egg on the pizza inside the oven. There we go. That's a good looking pie. That is a good looking pie. All right. Feel kind of bad that there's going to be some leftover tomato sauce. It's okay. All right. Alexa, turn off the timer. It's going to spend an extra few seconds sort of spreading this out. I don't want it to get too kind of watery, so I'm going to try to do this quickly. All right. Ooh, it's coming along nicely. So again, in your mind's eye, imagine that I am opening up the pizza drawer right now that the pizza stone is on. I'm taking an egg right here, cracking that egg. I am cracking that egg open on the pizza ever so carefully. And then I am taking some of the dried chives from earlier and then sprinkling them on the egg. And then I am taking a bit of salt and I'm twisting it on the egg. And then I am using my oven mitt to push the pizza back in. I'm closing the oven door. Alexa, set a timer for 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Starting now.
This isn't a scientific process, but I think that after 3 minutes, the egg will be just about ready. And the rest of the pizza with it. All right. So we've got our pizza sauce on. I'm just going to add a little bit of extra pizza sauce here so I can spread it out. All right. And the rest of the pizza sauce is going to go in this corner of shame because I was not able to use up all of it. All right. As usual, I'm going to spread some of my dried tomatoes on this. Again, we're going to try to make sure that we don't put any too close to the center because gravity will take its course and naturally push things towards the center. All right. And with that, it's time for us to put the rest of the cheese on. So the idea is that we should have this pizza right here ready to go into the oven just as our other pizza that's in the oven will be ready to be taken out. I suspect at the rate at which we're moving here that I will probably be ready to play Mario Kart in about half an hour. So at 7:15. Which again, sorry for anybody who wanted to watch me play Mario Kart for a full hour, but I really want to make sure that I get these pizzas done properly. Oh, apparently we've got like 40 seconds left on the pizza. It's in the oven. And I am almost at the end of my cheese to put on this pizza. All right. Again, I put all of my dishes that I used over there. All right. Like last time, we're going to be putting a bit of oregano and a bit of, oh, hold on a sec. We're a few seconds away from the pizza in the oven being ready. Alexa, turn off the timer. Man, I don't know what I would do if I had like a hand crank timer or like something manual. Alexa has been such a lifesaver.
I don't know that.
Well, apparently Alexa disagrees. I'm going to put the oregano away in the cupboard. Let's have a look at this pie. Ooh, all right. Let's take it out. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves for the money shot. Oh, I realized, hold on. I need to take this pizza off of the peel so I can use the peel. Whew. Hold on a second. I'm going to switch to the bigger camera view for this next part. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a pizza pie. Unfortunately, it's not, the quality of the camera is not quite good enough to really pick up on the illustrious beast that's in front of me. So I'm going to take some pictures and I'm going to post them to my Twitter account. You can find me on Twitter, if you are not already following me, at Alex Kozina, AlexKozina. Amelia, the pizzas are going to be ready soon. All right. Oh, hold on a sec. I need to. You know what? Actually, I can just leave the webcam like this because from here on out, all I really have to do is brush the pizza, like the crusts, and I don't really need to switch back over to the smaller view for that. All right. Plus, you can still see the pizza and all that stuff in the background. I'm going to try to do this quickly because I want to put the arugula on the pizza as soon as possible. All right. Let's take this pizza and let's pop it in the oven. Alexa, set a timer for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, starting now.
So while we're doing that, let's quickly lay down some arugula. You know how some households say, let's lay down some ground rules? In our household, we say, let's lay down some arugula. So it makes us uniquely Kozinas. I need to move this wire out of the way. All right. This is, like I said, my first time doing this, so I'm kind of figuring this out as I go. I realized that with this pizza, I didn't do a very good job of scrunching down the sides of it because, you know, as you saw in real time earlier, I decided to scrunch down the sides after I applied the tomato sauce, and that kind of screwed things up. That's okay because obviously this has no bearing on the taste. It's just purely a presentation thing. I think that's about enough arugula for that one. Again, let's take some more photos. Oh, and there we go. Just as we finish doing that, it's time to remove the parchment paper from the other pizza. Alexa, turn off the timer. Again, picture in your mind's eye. I'm sticking the peel underneath the pizza so that I can kind of lift it up. And with my other hand, I am removing the parchment paper from underneath it. Et voila! I've had some tough parchment paper times in the past where the parchment paper really wasn't removing itself very nicely, so I'm glad that turned out okay. Oh, and before I forget, I realized that I had this plate of grated Parmesan cheese. I should probably sprinkle some of it on. Trying to be as even as possible, so that no particular part of it feels dejected. All right. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a pizza. Again, I'm going to take one more photo of it. Amelia, would you like some pizza? My sister does not appear to be heeding my calls, and that is most unfortunate because I have a delicious pizza ready for her. Let's get our pizza cutter out here and let's cut ourselves. Okay. Again, I need to buy a pizza serving plate. But even this thing that I brought out is like kind of small for the size of pizzas that I make. Now, of course, if the crust had not unfurled, it probably would have been okay, but I'm going to cut it into 6th. Again, I'm so impressed with just how effective this thing is. It is unbelievable how easily I can cut through these pizzas. Oh, Alexa, set a timer for 5 minutes.
5 minutes, starting now.
Hey, Saint by Design. Thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it. As you can see, I just completed myself a nice little pizza pie, and I have another pizza pie that's over in the oven, busy becoming delicious. All right, let's give this one a shot. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hmm. And this is no longer a pizza stream. This is a pizza eating ASMR stream. A delicious pizza eating ASMR stream. Like this is. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, Saint by Design. The pizza that you're currently looking at has dried tomatoes, tomato sauce, arugula, a mixture of mozzarella and Havarti as like the main cheeses with a bit of Parmesan sprinkled on top, a sunny side up fried egg with a mixture of salt and dried chives sprinkled on it. And also there's a kind of brush coating that I put on its crust of olive oil, salt, Parmesan, and garlic powder. Oh yeah. I've been making good pizzas, but this is the first one where it's like, yeah, this is a fancy pizza. You know what? Just because, again, the camera resolution isn't the best, let's post some of these pictures to Twitter. My Twitter account, as I mentioned previously, is @AlexKazina. All right, and the tweet is sent. I got to be honest, I really was hoping that my sister would come down and test some of this pizza out with me. Oh, hold on. Amelia, are you coming to have some pizza? I don't think she cares. That's too bad. I'm going to have more of this pizza. Make no mistake. I am not having just one slice, but I want to put a couple of things away. First off, I'm putting the rest of the mozzarella in the fridge. I have some measuring spoons over here I'm going to put in the wash. My entire counter over here is covered in flour that I don't need anymore. So I am going to, yeah.
Here are your timers.
Well, we're going to have to put eggs on the next pizza real soon. So, here, just applied a bit of water to a paper towel, and that should do the job. Alexa, turn off the timer. This has been such a great helping hand. I'm going to need to do a better clean, but I can wait on that. All right. It's time to put the 2 final eggs on the pizza. Ooh, a lot of heat came out all at once. My glasses got a little bit steamy. All right. I cracked my first egg. I put it on the right side. Cracked my second egg. Put it on the left side, although they all both kind of went towards the center, again, because of gravity. Put some chives on there, although I put too many dried chives in my hand, so I'm going to put some of them in the trash. And finally, I'm going to twist a bit of Himalayan sea salt on these to really flavor boost them. All right. And with that, let's put the other one back in. Whew. Oh. Let me tell you, pizza baking is a tough sport. Alexa, set a timer for 3 minutes.
3 minutes, starting now.
That's going to be the amount of time that we're going to wait on the other pizza that's still in the oven. Let's take some time to clean up. We're going to put this salt shaker over here. We're going to put the fine chives back in this drawer. Oh. Now, the only things that we still have out are the remaining brush mixture. There's a little bit left at the bottom. The Parmesan cheese and the arugula. We only really need the Parmesan cheese and the arugula. So I'm going to put the brush mixture over here by the sink to be disposed of. And I'm going to open up the arugula and get it ready. And I'm going to put the peel by the oven over here. All right, let's indulge ourselves a little bit. Honestly, it's one of those things like not enough. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to say it right now. Every single institution in the world that makes pizzas needs to start making pizzas with sunny side eggs on them. It is like you are going to be stupefied by how unbelievably good that tastes. It tastes shockingly good. And like when you combine that with the Parmesan, with the arugula, with the dried tomatoes, it just makes a flavor bomb. Give me a second. Sorry, I went into a flavor coma for a second there. I want to just, while we're waiting for the final pizza to come out of the oven, just wanted to remind everybody here that I'm currently in the middle of a 12-hour live stream raising money for Extra Life for the Big Beautiful Kids. I just want to thank everybody that has contributed to my live stream thus far. You guys really are the best. And I actually want to specifically give a shout out to you, Nizayez. I apologize if I butchered the pronunciation of your name there, but you gave me a decent little chunk of money right there, and I really do appreciate it. And I did not get a chance to properly thank you for that. So, all right, Alexa, turn off the timer. Night Eyes. Oh, got it. All right. Alexa, turn off the timer. Come on, I told you already. All right. You know what? I'm going to turn off the power on the oven, but I'm going to actually leave it in there for 1 more minute because I think it can use just a little bit more cooking. Yeah, I can see now, like now that I break down your name into different parts, I can see how it's Night's Eyes and not Night's Eyes or whatever the hell I was trying to pronounce earlier. I wanted to add a little bit more flavor to our ASMR stream here. All right, it's been about a minute. Let's take the pizza out. Whew. Let me tell you, that is a pizza. You know what? Hold on. Let me transfer the pieces of the other pizza to this plate, and I'll put the new pizza on that plate. There we go. That's the best. Thank you, 00. All right, like last time, let's put some arugula out. Let's see. Oh, it's 7:10. I said that I would be back to playing Mario Kart at around 7:15, so I think that works out. Oh no. What did I cause your Alexa to do anything bad? I hope I didn't. And finally, let's sprinkle some Parmesan on this bad boy. I honestly, in retrospect, I probably made a little bit too much shredded Parmesan. I think I might just store the rest of this in the fridge for another occasion. All right. Amelia, this is the final call. I have 2 delicious pizzas, and you're more than happy to indulge in them. I don't really know what to say. Oh, wow. So I activated the Alexa when you were out. I mean, I think she's shy, but I don't know. Let's cut this one up. She understands that she doesn't have to go on camera or like participate in this in any kind of capacity. She just can come in and have the pizza, and that's perfectly fine. Okay. Look at that yolk. Look at that yolk. Oof. Oh, man. Again, I'm going to take a quick picture right here for the Twitter, Instagram verse. All right. My tweet is sent. Thanks, Mitch. All right. I'm going to put this over here in the fridge. And yeah, well, I got to say, that was my first ever IRL cooking stream. And I think that it went exceptionally well. I was, like I said, a little bit nervous going into this, but I had a kind of dress rehearsal last night, and it went really, really well. And I think that the results speak for themselves. I am going to just take a quick little break. The break that I'm going to take here is not going to be as long as the break I took to set this up. And when I come back, I'm going to be downstairs eating some of this pizza and playing Mario Kart. Till next time. Well, not till next time. Hold on. That was a bad thing to say. I was making it sound like I was about to stop my stream. My stream is not stopping. I'm just taking a very quick break.